Welcome to Mind Matters, and today I'm going to be talking about change. And this last week, or this last few weeks, we have had so much change that it's really difficult to keep up with the pace of change. So normally, some kind of change is quite good for us. Some of us don't really like change and have different ways of coping with that. But with this pandemic, with the coronavirus, and with things moving as rapidly as they have been moving in the last week, I don't know about you, but the last week has felt like the longest week of my life. And to just try and keep up with the changes as things are happening as rapidly as they are has been really difficult. And at times I have felt completely overwhelmed by that. Different emotions coming up. I had one day this week when I just felt overwhelmed by grief and found it really quite difficult to get myself settled through the day. And what I did was that I came back to the things that were really constant in my life, the things that I can make a routine of, particularly in the morning. When I come down, I don't switch my phone on until quite a bit later in the day, but I make a routine, a mindful routine of the things that I do first thing, coming down into the kitchen, maybe putting things away from the draining board, making a cup of tea, actually being much more mindful and aware of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And essentially that's what being mindful is. It's really noticing things in the moment. And when you notice things in the moment, then your mind is present. Most of the time, our minds are either in the past, thinking about something that's happened already and ruminating over that, or our minds are in the future. And the problem at the moment is that there's so much information coming out that it's very easy to get to spiral out into a what if kind of way of thinking, and that then can make us feel quite unsteady, unnerved, stressed and panicky. And the panic buying that we have seen in the UK this last week, I went to Morrison's last night just to get a couple of things actually, eggs being one of them. The shelves were absolutely empty and there is no shortage of food. There are food deliveries every day. But what we're seeing is people buying, panic buying as it's being called, but I would call that overbuying. Overbuying because that gives you some sense of something that you can control when everything else feels out of control. So the behaviour is a way of not processing or managing that feeling that's coming up, and maybe not even really recognising that for what it is. So I'm just going to show you 3 very simple techniques that I use every day that you can try if you haven't tried them before, and see how they work for you. I think it's really important at the moment to keep our energy grounded because there's so much change, as I've already said, and what that does is it creates an energy around us which is really destabilizing. It's easy for us to get caught up in that, especially if you're sensitive, and to come back to a quiet place, a quiet space, at least once a day. I would say to do this as often as you feel is necessary at the moment. So there are 3 stages to this. The first is grounding your energy down through the soles of your feet. The second is just noticing, observing what's happening with your body, and I call that a body scan. And the third part is just to regulate the breath and the breathing. So I'm going to show you those 3 things, and they're very, very simple. You can do them in about 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe spend about that time today. So sit when you're grounding your energy. Preferably just take yourself somewhere where you can be on your own. Even if that means going into the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, just be in that space on your own. Put your feet on the ground and actually notice the feet planted on the ground. Notice the different parts of the feet, the toes, the heels, the outer and inner edges of the feet. And feel that, really begin to feel that connection with the earth. You can lie down, that's another way to do it if you're at home, or if you're outside and it's a warm day and you can actually lie down on the ground, on the earth. That's another way of really grounding your energy. And what this does is it brings the energy, a lot of the energy from the head, from the thinking part of us, back into the body. And having that connection with the earth, with the ground, reminds us that that stability, that stable earth is underneath us. We can actually feel it and really connect into that. So notice how that earth is supporting you, how the ground underneath you is supporting you. Then just observe the body, starting at the top of the head and placing the awareness just for a few seconds on each part of the body. So we start at the top of the head with the forehead, with the face, running down the back of the neck, into the shoulders. And what you're doing by placing the awareness for a few seconds and then observing is noticing areas of your body that feel less than comfortable. So you will probably know that there are key points in your body where you hold tension. So some of those will be familiar to you. Others won't be so familiar, and by doing this exercise on a regular basis, you can actually begin to notice where the tension, where the holding is collecting in your body, and then release it as it's building up, rather than wait until your shoulders around your ears. So just scan the body from the top of the head, starting with that forehead, with the scalp, with the facial muscles, the areas all around the eyes, the jaw, the teeth, the throat, the shoulders, the upper arms, the lower arms, the hands, and the fingers. Then move the awareness to the chest, to the belly, and to the pelvis. Then move the awareness to the upper legs, the knees, the lower legs, the toes and the feet. And just notice any part of your body that feels less than comfortable. And then think about how your body is being supported. And as you begin to allow that support, just begin to allow your body to soften a little, to open a little, to let go a little. And then finally, bring that awareness to the breath. And again, just for a moment, to simply observe the breath. So you're not doing anything with this breath, you're not changing it, you're just watching the breath move. That's something that happens automatically. It's part of the autonomic nervous system, so we don't have to think about the breath. It happens without us doing anything. But what I'm asking you to do is to consciously notice the breath with awareness. And the things that I suggest you notice are how that breath feels, whether the in-breath and the out-breath are equal lengths, or whether one is longer or shorter than the other, how your body moves as you breathe the breath, and what happens in the space between the in-breath and the out-breath. And you'll notice that there's a space at the top of the breath when the chest is full, and at the bottom of the breath when you completely breathe that breath out. Notice the breath. Notice the rhythm, the pace of that breath. And then just regulate the breath so that if your inhale is comfortably for a count of 3, for example, then you would exhale for a count of 3. Inhaling for a count of 3. Exhaling for a count of 3. So you inhale and you exhale. And just do that for a count of 10 breaths. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Just keep that going. Every time your mind wanders off, just very gently draw it back to the breath and to the counting of the breath. Your mind will wander. You may choose to notice where it goes, but perhaps more helpful at the moment is to just very gently bring it back without any kind of judgment at all to the breath, to your awareness of the breath, and to noticing how that breath feels as you breathe it. And when you get to 10, just bring the awareness back to the feet, firmly on the ground. Notice those 4 corners of the feet, the toes, the heels, the outer and inner edges of the feet. Feel them very firmly on the ground. Feel the support of the ground and the earth beneath you. And then bringing the awareness back completely into the body. And just noticing any changes from when we began, when you did the body scan. So very briefly, what this does is it brings the energy out of the head into the body. When that happens and the breathing starts to slow down, you're giving your body a rest. You're calming the central nervous system. You're enabling yourself to come into a place of stillness, a place where you can actually process feelings, emotions, and come back to a place of stillness and calm within the body that is always there. You just need to give yourself a few minutes to do that. And I absolutely guarantee, I've been doing this for a very long time, but if you practice this for maybe 5 minutes a day and do it as often as you need to do, it will really help you to feel calmer in a time when things are very uncertain and moving very fast on a day-to-day basis. The other thing I'd maybe suggest, I've stopped listening to the news. There's wall-to-wall news at the moment, and I'm just sort of checking in for an update once at one point during the day. So that's something else that you may wish to consider, and just noticing how that information, that surge of information is affecting you by taking a little bit of time in these still moments to notice that. So thank you for being with me today. I'd really appreciate any feedback on these short films, and maybe if there are things that you would like me to be talking about at this time, you can let me know. You can also find me on my Facebook page at Self Development Leicester, and I'm posting on there most days. So good health to you all, and thank you.